Creating a life that is authentic, bold, and purposeful takes audacity. It takes disruption. That is what it means to be a professional troublemaker. Professional Troublemaker is a book, a podcast, and a life habit. I'm your host, Luvvie Jones, bestseller of books, aficionado of authenticity, and sorceress of side eyes, here to bring you conversations with world movers and change agents who have gotten where they are through their tenacity, their truth-telling, and commitment to making good trouble. From time to time, I'll even do deep dives on topics that are on my spirit. My hope is that this show compels you to do big things in a world where we have so much to fear. Let us loan you courage. Listen in. Before we jump into today's episode, know that this podcast is named after my second book and second New York Times bestseller, Professional Troublemaker, The Fear Fighter Manual, which, by the way, is now out in paperback. Not only does this paperback version have a sleek new cover and travels well, it has an exclusive bonus chapter called The Guide to Truth-Telling. This chapter takes you step by step through the most common fears of speaking your truth and how to overcome it with boldness. How do you speak up in a meeting when the tough idea comes up? How do you confront a loved one who hurt you? What are the things to consider when silence is the easiest but not the best answer? I talk about all of that in the Truth-Telling Guide. How would our lives be different if we were given permission to be disruptors for the greater good? How high can we soar if we knew fear is natural and we're actually supposed to do the things that scare us? How audacious would we be if imposter syndrome wasn't holding onto our ankles? I wrote this book, Professional Troublemaker, to loan people courage. In it, I talk about how my life has transformed because I run towards what felt bigger than me, doing the things that feel scary as shit. Professional Troublemaker, The Fear Fighter Manual is game-changing, and my life is a testimony of it. Fighting fear yields authenticity and abundance. So if you value this show, the guests, their stories, the lessons, and the wisdom, if you've ever said yes out loud to something that was said here, you will love Professional Troublemaker. This book is a verbal hype team to let you know you got this. So get a copy of Professional Troublemaker wherever books are sold, or go to professionaltroublemakerbook.com. You can get the hardcover, paperback with the new exclusive chapter, or the audiobook, which I narrated and has a new chapter included. So that's professionaltroublemakerbook.com. Get your hands on it. All right, so let's jump into this episode. My oldest friend is someone I've known since I was 3 years old. My newest friend is someone I've met in the last year. Friendship is a topic I get asked about frequently, and I talk about it pretty often. Some people love to talk about their love lives. I love to talk about my friends and how I build a squad and how I surround myself with villages of dope people. I even dedicated a whole chapter on this topic in my book, Professional Troublemaker. In fact, my first book, I'm Judging You, even has a chapter about friendship. So it's something that always comes up. People want to know so much about my ideas around it, how I basically developed these friendship groups, all these different things. So that's what we're going to talk about this episode. And after a recent conversation that I had on Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, where we talked about friendship, we'll link that episode, by the way, in show notes, and how much it really resonated with people, I realized I wanted to do one here that deep dives into this particular topic. I think friendships are some of the deepest and greatest love stories, and we put them on the back burner for romantic love really often. Our friends are our chosen family. They're the ones who aren't obligated to us at all. So when they show up, it's a gift. When we have great friends, that's a gift. Bonds that aren't based on blood are powerful, and when we nurture these bonds, our lives are better for it. Good friends are important because they help affirm who we are. They can peer pressure you into greatness or shenanigans. And in a world that convicts us to be professional troublemakers, we gonna need backup. We need people to make sure that we don't always hit hard ground. So let's start by talking about what the word friend means to me. I think friendship is a verb, just like love, just like sisterhood or community. And friendship requires action. If you're my friend, it doesn't mean we talk every single day. Child, we busy. Don't nobody got time for that. Sometimes my friends and I might go a month without speaking. We know we're grown. We got stuff to do, and there's no hard feelings. We just pop back up and be like, hey, girl, where you been? You all right? And then we might end up in a 5-hour conversation about nothing at all, or we might end up in a 5-hour conversation about what's really happening in our lives, however way it is. When I call someone a friend, it means I feel closeness to them and love for them that would make me go out of my way to show up for them. It means I'm taking some responsibility for your care. This part really resonated with people when I talked about it on Glennon's podcast, when I said, if you are my friend, it means that I am taking responsibility for your care. It's an implicit agreement to look out for them in the best ways I know how. It obligates them to my honesty, my care, my challenges, my support, my energy, and vice versa. Sometimes that even means my money. Friendship requires showing up. When we do cool things like graduate from law school or turn 40 or get a promotion or find love or shame our enemies relentlessly, okay? Our friends help us celebrate. When we are being raggedy, our friends will call us in and check us with love. When something tragic happens, when you lose a parent or a loved one, a friend is not the person who just casually tells you on social media, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Your friend is a person who calls and says, have you eaten today? A friend might be the person who shows up at your door asking, do you need their obituary written? Do you need me to help you write it? Actions are substantive, which is why I'm very careful who I call and consider a friend. Because will I show up for you in the moment of crisis? If you're not somebody who I would show up for, I can't call you a friend. You might be an acquaintance. I still love you, but those levels are different. For me, friendship means that person is a charging station for me. In a world that's constantly draining my batteries, this person helps me recharge. When I'm in their presence, I can recharge and rest and get ready to go out and face the world again. It means sharing joy with each other and serving as a soft space to land for each other. I know I can never truly fall in this world because my friends would never let me hit concrete. They are my soft place to land. So that's what friendship ultimately means. It's safety. It is like almost a bubble. And I say a village because a village is home. So friends are homes. And that is one of the biggest things my friends have done for me. We've given each other time and space to be with each other. If you listened to my last episode, you heard me talking to my leak about friendship and about the shiny bachelorette party that they threw me. Like when I was getting married, my friends bride-napped me. And they basically swooped me over to Anguilla for 6 days for this amazing vacation. But it wasn't the flossiness that made it amazing. Because it would have been amazing had we done this thing in Cleveland. It would have been amazing if we just sat in Chicago on my couch. They took their time. They thought about ways to make me feel seen and affirmed before this special thing I would step into, this new season of my life. And it's something that was so deeply healing for me because it was they basically showed me love in that way. It was service. And I think about how oftentimes friendship will look like things that you can't repay. I can't repay them for that vacation. I can't say, you know what, I need to do something now for you. But I think the very nature of friendship is finding ways to serve this other person, whether or not they have anything to offer you in return. We should be service-minded in our friendships and also remember that we are on this earth to hopefully build and deepen connections with people by showing them love, by showing them friendship, again, as a verb. And the other thing about friendship is once I say somebody is my friend, I know that it means that I am now vouching for them. In whatever room that they are in or I'm in, their name comes up and they know that person's aligned with me, which means we represent each other. We are aligned in value. We are proof of each other's dopeness. And that means we are responsible for each other and how we show up in this world and how we show up when nobody's watching. And with all of that, people are always like, well, what happens when like friendship ends and how do you handle it? And I got to say, when we talk about I am obligated for your care, you also have to understand that there might be times when you might have to separate. Friendships might have to end. I've had friendship losses over the years, and who I am today as a friend is partly because of those losses that I've had. Times where people have not showed up for me in a way or they weaponize something I did or say. I think friendship losses that I've had from college, from being a fully grown person, have taught me how to also be a better friend. What are the things I need to do different? What are the ways I need to show up for somebody who I call a friend? What are the ways I have to give grace to people? Because that's the other thing that comes with friendship. You have to have grace. You have to see the good in your friends. You have to wish that their intention is good. Even if it's not sometimes, then you have to have a conversation. So we'll get to questions later, but one of the biggest things about friendship is people not knowing when to let friendships go. What happens when a friendship has expired? You know that if you no longer trust yourself with somebody, you can no longer be friends with them. If you have to second guess everything you do because you're not sure how they will receive it or how they'll take it, if you do not trust your feelings with them or your very persona with them, it might be time for a friendship to end. Because that means you can no longer lean on them in the way that you really need to. Nor would you be present for them because you're going to feel a little bit resentful. You know, it's happened for me before multiple times. And when this has happened, in terms of me saying, you know what, I think this friendship is done, it's either they've crossed a boundary that I can't unsee or broke something that I can't figure out how to fix. Or ultimately, they're not somebody that I see as a person of integrity anymore. It means I can't take accountability and continue that friendship with you. Once a trust is broken is when I say, you know what, I can no longer be responsible for this person's care because I don't trust them or I don't trust myself with them. And when that happens, you have to just gracefully bow out. And now, as far as actually letting the friendship go, I think we should honor each other and ourselves and be truly honest with somebody else, especially in those hard moments, so repairs can happen or not. One of the things my therapist talks about is conflict is not bad. Conflict is not the problem in this world. The problem is how we fix things, how we repair. So you don't lose friends because y'all disagreed the first time. You don't lose a friend because they said something you didn't like one time. No, you have a tough conversation in these moments, and then you're able to repair and move forward. Oftentimes, it actually will bring you closer. What happens, though, when you can't repair something? That is when, for me, a friendship has to end, is if I have attempted to fix whatever is broken and I can't figure it out or they can't figure it out or they're not receiving of the repair. I think that's really important as we're talking about releasing, as we're talking about, knowing the expiration date. Have you attempted the repair? If you haven't yet, you cannot write this person off because I feel like that's a lack of grace. I feel like that. A lot of people now, we talk about like, oh my God, we're going to cut off this person. I saw something on social media, somebody being like, you over here talking about cutting up people left and right. Are you a knife? So it's not about being a knife with your presence or with your friendship. It's about approaching it knowing that you're two different people. Y'all might have conflict. That's okay. How you handle the conflict is what matters. And for me, the moments when I've walked away from friendships have been when I have tried to fix conflicts and it was either weaponized and thrown back at me and shown that this person can't be my safe space, or the person didn't even receive it at all. They took it as offense and just like actually used it as a way to insult me or just they didn't show up properly. And I go, that's a character thing. It takes a long time for me to actually say this person is no longer my friend because shout out to my fellow Capricorns. We are loyal. Once we let people into our lives, into our love lives, I'm into our heart space, it's hard to kick them out. So we do everything in our power to fix it. I do everything in my power to fix conflict with friends. So when I say I'm done, it's because it's gotten to the point where anything more is self-betrayal. But ultimately, you can release friendships without hard feelings because you loved this person at some point, right? So it doesn't mean they've become a cartoon villain. It just might mean that your journeys together have ended. Every friendship breakup doesn't have to be this dramatic bomb that just went off. Sometimes people would drift apart, and that's okay. We're adults. Stuff happens. But I think through it all, try as much as you can to maintain your integrity. And at the end of the day, I'm in love with my friends. And I think that's really the key. I Care Bear stare them. That's what Glennon says. Where you see your friends and you're just so in love with who they are, their personalities, their characters, how dope they are, their vulnerability? Are you in love with the person who is your friend, who you're sharing space and energy with, who you're going on vacations with, who you're chatting with nonstop on WhatsApp? Shout out to the group chats. So I think friendship is ultimately being in love with multiple people and having them walking in this journey with you. They don't have to be your partner. So for my friends, yes, they're amazing. So I am in love with them. Anytime I take a shower, I use a body butter, and I always layer it with oil for extra moisture. Brown Girl Jane's aromatic body oil infused with CBD is my favorite. CBD is one of my go-tos for relaxation, and the thing people don't realize about CBD is how amazing it is topically. It's highly anti-inflammatory and relieves muscle aches and pains. So when used in an oil like Brown Girl Jane's, it's an amazing solve. Brown Girl Jane's body oil is packed with skin-loving and plant-based ingredients that are designed to calm and nourish your skin. Plus, the scent is very light and refreshing, and it calms the senses, and the packaging is beautiful. I love it, and so do my muscles. So this oil and all of Brown Girl Jane's products are non-intoxicating, cruelty-free, vegan, and 100% natural. I'm fully leaning into my quest to become a lady of leisure, and Brown Girl Jane has all of my favorite CBD products to keep me cool, calm, and collected, giving full auntie vibes in my robe on my couch. I included this oil in my love list mailing, and people have been messaging me and texting me like, girl, this body oil is insane. So if you're listening to this and you need some self-care in your life, go get this oil. Head over to browngirljane.com and use the code LUVV15. That's LUVV15 for 15% off all Brown Girl Jane products. So it's amazing. Get into it and let it bless your life. So now that we've talked about what friendship is like, I want to address this question that Glennon asked me on the podcast that really had me thinking and still reflecting on, which is the question of, can Black women and white women really be friends? You know, the kind of friends that I just talked about, that deep, intimate friendship, that safe space, the soft place to land, the friend that you want to be accountable to. So Glennon asked this question because she's one of my friends. She's somebody who I consider my charging station. Glennon and I met a few years ago, and she is a trusted part of my life board of directors. This question is significant because as we're talking about the work that we do out loud as thinkers in public, some of you might have seen Share the Mic Now. In the summer of 2020, that was the summer of the George Floyd uprisings, and there was a lot of reckoning that had to do around race and privilege and allyship. And one of the things that was happening is people really trying to figure out what they can do to make positive impact and change that is beyond the triteness. And Glennon is somebody who's committed herself to being a change agent. So I remember her hitting me up and being like, listen, if you ever want to speak from my platform, you have the access. And then I was talking to Bozema St. John, and she was saying, well, you know, I mean, we should probably do something around this. So me and Bose get on three-way with Glennon, and we're like, what if prominent white women gave up their accounts for the day for Black women to speak from? And Glennon was like, yes. And that's how Share the Mic Now was created. Because when the world listens to women, it listens to white women. And for far too long, Black women's voices have gone unheard. So what we set out to do was, okay, let's do this kind of trust exercise and have Black women who are just amazing thinkers in general have bigger platforms than they usually do, even if just for a day. So Glennon, we had this idea June 2nd, 2020. Glennon, by June 4th, had gotten 50 white women to agree. And we asked them, jump on Zoom, join us on Zoom, and you'll meet 50 other Black women who will be doing this with you. You're not sure who's going to take over your account. Ask us no questions. So people jump on Zoom, and I'm seeing Ashley Judd's face, and I'm seeing Diane von Furstenberg, and I'm seeing Brene Brown, and I'm seeing Tarana Burke, Yaba Blake, Kari Champion. And all these women said yes to us without asking questions. They said, we don't know what's happening, but we're in because y'all said, are you in? We're in. So that's why on June 10th, 2020, Share the Mic Now happened. And across Instagram, 50 Black women were running the accounts of 50 prominent white women to tell their stories about life, about friendship, about work, about anything that was on our spirits. And at the end of the day, every Black woman left a call to action for the audience that they were in front of. So Gwyneth Paltrow's platform was taken over by Latham Thomas. That was a significant campaign, not just because of the fact that it had 20 billion impressions. First of all, we paid nobody for anything. We didn't deal with anybody's agents. It was revolutionary in that people showed up without expectation. People showed up without resistance for this experiment, this trust exercise, and ultimately friendship, because it was us who went to the friends that we had and said, join us in this thing. We're building the boat as we're basically rowing it. And everyone told us yes. What makes me most proud about Share the Mic now, besides the fact that the campaign has been replicated a bunch of times to really put people into relationship with each other and change some power structures for even a day, are the relationships that were built from the pairs. So many of them have actually become really good friends. So many of these women have decided to stay in community with each other. It was a trust exercise to have Black women on the platforms of white women, not because the Black women weren't trustworthy. No. It was because these people didn't know each other. None of the women knew who they were going to end up with. And they said yes to us because we were their friends. When I tell you major trust exercise, we could have blown up their platforms. We didn't. But I really appreciated the Black women also showing up open-hearted, not sure what they were going to receive. And ultimately, the relationships that were formed because of Share the Mic Now is something I am really proud of. So let's get back to that question of, can Black women and white women really be friends? They can, but, and this is a big but, the white woman needs to know how to be in community. Here's the thing about Black sisterhood. Black women's sisterhood is really specific and important. Our sisterhoods are our lifelines. They are truly our lifelines. From the time we are born, Black women cleave unto each other. It's a culture no matter whether you are in Nigeria, in Barbados, or the United States. Black women, from the moment we come out, other Black women have our hearts. So we actually come out the gate in deep community with each other. It starts with our mothers. Our relationships with our mothers are very specific. For many of us, our mothers raise us as tiny versions of themselves. There's this deep connection that's unspeakable. And then we start grade school and become best friends with the person sitting next to us at lunch who offered us their pink Starburst, because that's the bomb one. And that person ends up being our friend, and we're 45 and we're like, oh my God, we've been friends for literally decades. For Black women, from the time we were born, we learned that we have each other, if nobody else. Our friendships are deep. Our friendships are a survival tool, because if we don't lean on each other, the world would have destroyed us by now. Black women have saved each other over and over again, and we are each other's breaths. So our friendships mean something different. Now, when we get into friendships with white women, who I'm not sure have the same level of depth to their friendships because they haven't had to cling to them for survival, we will approach it with the full heart and full body, which for white women might feel weird because it will seem like a lot, but that's how we operate. So for you to be our friend, you also have to approach us with full heart and full body and full vulnerability. We need you to show up for us in the way we would expect our Black girlfriends to show up for us. But often that feels impossible because of the chasms between white and Black, because of the hierarchies that all these systems of oppression have put in place. It's pitted us against each other. So when a Black woman and a white woman can actually be in true friendship together, it's a revolution, because it's actually crossing all sorts of societal, cultural lines that were put in place to lock us away from each other. That is a beautiful part of the human experience, is that we can always find common ground, and we can always find depth. We can always go deeper, and we can always do the work to build and cultivate beautiful relationships with people who we might not have met if this was 1933 or earlier. There's a lot working against that type of revolutionary friendship. So many Black women have stories of times when white women have undermined us, got us in trouble, got us fired, got us punished for something. So when we approach this friendship, we're also now fighting against What has happened to us in the past from other white women? So yeah, white women will sometimes have to overprove their friendship over and over again to us because in the past, we haven't seen sisterhood from white women at all. Another obstacle stems from something Glennon mentioned in the episode, which she said friendships she's cultivated with Black women have been thrilling because she's always wanted a friendship where mutual care was the center of the relationship, but that it was equally terrifying because she wasn't used to so much being expected of her in friendships. That's true. Deep friendship takes time and care and trust. And my observation is that white women don't trust themselves. I think about when Hillary lost the presidency, and I wrote a piece about it, and Hillary Clinton was actually part of Share the Mic Now too. I'll link this piece in the notes. And I said, what happened is white women didn't vote for Hillary because white women didn't trust themselves to lead, let alone her to lead. That permeates everything. It permeates how friendships happen. It permeates how the coworkers stab each other in the back. It permeates a lot of things. My therapist says when you have trust issues, when you don't trust others, it's ultimately because you don't trust yourself. When you're afraid of losing control, it's because you don't trust yourself, so you're not trusting other people. Once you trust yourself more, you'll start trusting other people. So when friendship comes into play, often white women are not trusting themselves to be good friends. It takes showing up and continuing to show up. It takes being willing to have tough conversations and being able to receive feedback without fragility. If you can be a grown-up who is here for accountability, who's here for growth, who's here for laughter because we do love some shenanigans, then we can be friends. But if you cannot show up with your full chest, your full body, friendship is hard because friendship requires honesty, accountability, and action. It's simple. Just be the friend that you would like to have, and you will be a good friend. This world is too crazy to walk through alone. So if you're trying to disrupt for the greater good, you're going to need this backup. And I'd love for you to share this episode with a friend who is one of those people you're willing to be accountable for and to. Let them know how much they mean to you. Those connections are critical, and we got to cultivate them. So, all right. So I went on Instagram, and I sent a text message to my community, my tech squad. I hope you're on it. Just go to textluvvie.com to join, okay, and put podcast, and you'll join it. I wanted to know if y'all had any questions you wanted me to answer about friendship. Because in case I may need to do another episode or jump on IG Live, but I'm going to answer a few of them on this podcast. I picked some of the ones that I saw y'all had most of the time. Iris asked, how do you navigate feeling neglected when a friend goes through a major life change like marriage or a new child? What constitutes the appropriate amount of effort on their part? How do you communicate your feeling of neglect without sounding selfish and insensitive? Ooh, this is a good question. Okay, first of all, this is also where grace has to come into play. When your friend is going through a major life change, think about how much their life is being disrupted in that moment. They're not going to actually have a lot of time for you. That might actually be a time when they cannot show up for you. Friendship does not mean you won't drop the ball or you just always have to be the person that's showing up. Friendship also means saying, hi, friend, I'm going to be missing for the next couple of months because I have to focus on this thing. But here's the thing. Marriage, new child, new job, new season might require somebody to bury their head in the sand and just work on themselves. You as their friend has to understand that. If you're a grown-up and you feeling neglected after your friend just had a new baby, I need you to check yourself a little bit and be like, listen, maybe I am actually being selfish right now. And instead of you saying, oh my gosh, I feel neglected, show up at their house. If you miss them and you want to spend some time with them, show up at their house and help them wash some dishes and maybe hold the baby for an hour so you don't actually have to miss them. I think for us, when we're thinking about our friends, think about your friend also as the real human being. Because if you were in a new season of change, you would want somebody to give you extra grace. And our friends, we shouldn't feel like us having to focus on ourselves in those moments will mean we're missing them or we're neglecting them. So have a conversation. Hey, friend, I miss you. What's going on? I know you're busy. Can I show up at your place tomorrow? I just want to spend some time with you. And do that. All right? Jamie's asking, how do you balance showing up for your friends and prioritizing your mental health? I want to show up more, but my depression and anxiety makes it difficult or impossible. Again, I'm sending you love, and I want you to be gentle with yourself. I think it's really important for our friends to understand that, yeah, we aren't always going to be present. Similarly to what I just said, you can also be honest with your friends and say, hey, I'm going through a rough time right now, so I really can't show up for you in the way I really want to. And I hope you know that it doesn't mean I love you less. I just have to prioritize myself. I think this is also where the honesty comes in. You have to be able to be honest with your friends and saying, I can't. And if your friend goes, wow, so you can't be there for me, then that's a data point for you. So I think honesty, vulnerability, radical transparency. Lisa's asking, do you feel you have different levels of friends? Example, your ride or die friends who know everything, friends who you know and appreciate through your work, acquaintances? Absolutely. I talked about this in, I think it's chapter 8. I think the Build Your Squad chapter is chapter 8 in Professional Troublemaker. I talked about the different types of friends that we have. All friends are not created equal. The word friend don't mean that everybody's your best friend, but they are your friend at the basic level, foundational level. Absolutely have my true blues who, know where the bodies are buried, probably help me bury a few of them. And I have the friends who, we don't talk all the time, but the moment they need me, if I can, I show up. What you need, I got you. So absolutely different levels. Friendship and community, you always have to create different levels. Think about circles that just expand out. There's a tiny circle, the closest friends. Then there's a slightly bigger circle that's the good friends. And then there's the acquaintances, So different levels. Sarah's asking, I would love to hear a conversation around how to navigate friendships when the people themselves change. For example, my two very best friends and I have increasingly different views on politics, COVID, evangelical Christianity, social justice, anti-racism. They're godparents to my kids, the most intimate and long-lasting friendships in my life, but I'm struggling so much with how blind they seem to the world around them, how exclusive and privileged their beliefs are. How do I separate conflicting beliefs from intimate friendships? Ooh, I struggle with that. I struggle with separating things that feel core to my humanity from my friendships. I personally cannot be in deep friendship with someone who I feel like their views are harmful to my personhood. So again, this is also kind of where it comes in. Me as a Black woman could never be friends with a white woman who is hyper evangelical and who is what? Privilege is not a thing. I cannot, because I can't trust you with me. I can't trust my very essence with you. I can't have real discussions with you because I'd be you don't even make sense. So I don't know if I'm going to be helpful here. I can't separate some of these types of beliefs from my ability to be friends with people. And maybe it's something I got to work on, but yeah, I just can't do it. I can't have you in my intimate space if our values are so misaligned that I start questioning your intelligence and your decency. So I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you, Sarah. How do you show up for a longtime friend? Think we were in diapers together, who can be toxic and negative. Yeah, she'd walk through fire for you and is ready for any emergency on a day-to-day, doesn't know how to be a friend and zaps all your energy. Oof. Yeah, that's tough also. Remember when I said your friend should be your charging station? Once your friend becomes the main drainer of your batteries, you might have to walk. You might have to say, listen, longevity in terms of how long you've known each other does not constitute the depth of your friendship, right? So there are some people who I've met in the last 10 years who I'm closer to than people I've known for 20. So don't think longevity means you are obligated to keep this person as a friend. Maybe you create distance and they become more of an acquaintance, but if they're draining your batteries and they're zapping all of your energy, anybody who's not good for your mental health should not be in your close proximity. That's what my thought is. Personal, relationship, work, all of that. If they're not good for your mental health, you should choose you. So that's what I'm saying about that. ultimately, I think one of these questions, all these questions are around people trying to figure out how to navigate changing friendships. Again, remember that all these bonds are voluntary. You can walk away whenever you feel like it. You can say no to the person who is draining your batteries. You can say we're not growing together and our values are misaligned. I don't think we're good friends anymore. You can walk whenever you need. You can walk whenever you feel like it's more harmful than helping. Other questions that people have. How and where do you find your friends? I find friends everywhere. I find friends in rooms I walk in and I say, your shoes are fire, girl. Yes. Okay. I find friends at conferences, before COVID, right? I honestly just deepen connections. I find relationships in people who are interesting to me, whose values are aligned to me. I find them, I'll say, okay, let's talk before COVID. Before COVID, I met friends, at conferences. I've had friends, some of my friends since high school, like they literally know me since I was 14, and we used to be on ultra shenanigans. I found new friends through other friends, at a get together. I'm like, oh my God, you're so dope. We end up talking for 30 minutes. I'm like, you are cool. We should we should hang out, right? No pressure, but we should hang out sometime. And then we hang out and then we're like, oh my gosh. And then we start chatting in WhatsApp. And next thing you know, that's the homie. That's a good homie. How do you help ensure you don't project your own anxieties onto your friends? Self-awareness is everything. This is why I go to therapy. I think knowing what is yours and knowing what is theirs is important, so you don't constantly throw your garbage on somebody else. So that's why I be going to therapy. I need to be checked. I need to know where my traumas are so I don't bring it into every relationship that I'm dealing with. Okay? Like, I want to make sure that I am who I want to be friends with. So I got so many questions. I might have to do a part 2. If you want me to do a part 2, text part 2 friendship to thetextluvvie.com. I want to know, because I can do another episode if y'all want. I definitely didn't talk about the whole comprehensive everything. There's still a bunch of questions I didn't answer. But again, if you want me to do a part 2, text part 2 to textluvvie.com. So you go to textluvvie.com on your phone and send that. And if I get enough of these, I might do a part 2 where I just answer all your questions. But yeah, ultimately, friendships are critical. They are vital and they take effort. And I hope as a result of listening to this episode that you reach out to a friend who matters to you. Send them a voice note, letting them know you appreciate them and that you're cheering them on. Send flowers just because. Make the investment, because investing in your relationships is something that will keep rewarding you for the rest of your life. So be the friend that you would like to have. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Professional Troublemaker podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure you subscribe to Professional Troublemaker in your favorite podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever that is. Leave a rating with a 5-star review. Your insights and comments help us gather more professional troublemakers into our community. And go to textluvvie.com on your phone. That's textluvvie.com. And text podcast. Join our tech squad and talk directly to me. Let me know who you'd like me to be in conversation with, or what topics you want me to do a deep dive on in a solo episode. Until next time, make some good trouble.